So I'm not really sure where to start on this topic. I at one point wanted to make a series entitled Before the Collapse, which would be dealing with all of the precursors to the incremental collapse of civilization as we know it, or at least collapse into some dystopian Brave New World type future. If you're not familiar with Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, essentially it's about people being controlled via distractions and amusement. And it's about, there's so much media to consume, and it's all about pleasure. It's a very hedonistic society. And contrary to 1984, where people are controlled by force, which is more of a communistic paradigm, it's a very uber-liberal paradigm in the sense that people are controlled via pleasure. So with this whole Pokemon Go craze, it really signifies for me just yet another harbinger of the collapse, if you could call it that. You have grown people who are chasing virtual monsters. Meanwhile, there's so many important things going on, I think. I don't know if it's any more than it ever was before. But what we have now is a progressive infantilization of society. And we have the harmonization of the ages in terms of age classes. So teens, adults, senior citizens. Soon there will be no distinction. And just like the harmonization of the sexes, and the harmonization of the races even, what you eventually get is a society of gray hedonism. That really will be the ultimate end result. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I suppose, is yet to be seen. But it seems intuitively that something is wrong with it. There's a lot more evidence of this mass infantilization of society than just Pokemon Go. I overheard, she must have been in her 60s, talking about how she goes and chases these virtual Pokemons because it gives her exercise. As if we're living in an era now where in order to get some form of physical fitness, or in order to be motivated to do that, you have to go and chase these virtual characters around, which only 10 years ago were solely for children. I mean, this is a children's cartoon thing. My 11-year-old stepdaughter has played with these Pokemons. I could never imagine, even a month ago, that grown people would be running around chasing these things. Now, augmented reality is nothing new. That's been around for at least 3 or 4 years. So I suppose this Pokemon thing is just making it now official. It's making it recognized by the masses that it's a thing. It's introducing it to the masses. And this is how, the powers that be introduce technology to the masses, is via some controversy on Facebook, the 5 major media news stations. And by controversy, I'm talking about, the 2 guys who went over the edge. People talk about it, some people criticize it, and it's all over the news. You can't buy advertising like that. You just simply cannot buy that kind of advertising. There is no better form of advertising than the news. So whoever's pulling the strings up top made it pretty clear that this is what they wanted people doing. And on every possible media agency you could imagine, they're promoting this Pokemon Go. Even though on many stations it's all about the token criticisms of it in an attempt to seem as though people are critical of it. But at the end of the day, what they want is a dumbed down mass of people who are out there chasing things that don't exist. And I mean, that's something we've been doing already, with video games, like the whole Wii Fit thing, where you have these adults standing in front of a TV shaking a plastic controller around, while this camera is pointed at them, recording everything that goes on in their living room. I mean, it's just amazing how brainwashed we are nowadays. And people just eat this stuff up. Like nobody, very, very few people. There's been a couple videos made about this, but right when I seen this Pokemon Go thing, and right when I seen it go from, absolutely non-existent to everywhere in 2 days, that's when you know that something is a part of some sort of agenda. It's not just an accident that this Pokemon Go thing is everywhere now. It was a two-part thing. It was a way to get everybody on augmented reality, and it was also for the purpose of dumbing down people even more. Like, take for instance these superhero movies. You see these grown people going to watch these movies about the Avengers and Thor and Captain America, Batman. Well, Batman, that was an okay movie. I'll give that one. There was some meaning to that one. The one with Heath Ledger, anyways. Not the last one. But, it's just amazing how subtly we've been dumbed down with video games, with online pornography. That's another thing in Brave New World is it's a hypersexual society where sex is totally divorced from procreation, and it's no longer, like giving birth and having children and having a family is taboo, and it's things that are frowned upon by society, and just the consumption-driven society that we have, that's very much adolescent-based. When you live in a society where everything is done through technology, you no longer need the adult. You no longer need the family unit. You no longer need elders in that society to teach the young. And maybe this is just a natural evolution, or maybe it's a tandem of conspiracy and evolution. But we're living in an age now where the youth, I've heard it called the cult of youth, where the youth are more empowered and the elders are becoming more disempowered, because I think, the powers that be understand the importance of separating the generations, because people who are older have that experience. They don't fall for the same old tricks. And this is something which has come up in dystopian fiction on numerous occasions, where you have the children who are the ones who are, controlling things. They're the ones who are subverting their parents and telling on their parents if their parents think for themselves or if their parents go against the party. And what you have is the smart technology and correspondingly dumbed down people. So the smarter technology gets, the dumber people get. Not necessarily in a knowledge sense, because we're all very adept at a lot of, due to Wikipedia and having the internet access and all of this media, people are factually smarter, but they have less FQ, or fuck you as they call it. If you don't know what fuck you is, go and check out the video. I'll post a link here. I briefly talk about the concept of IQ, EQ, and fuck you. People lack fuck you. People lack the ability to think independently and for themselves. And you can even see this on social media, where it's just this endless conveyor belt of memes and mind-numbing quotes and just complete and utter garbage, depending on, and they try to keep they call it the virtual bubble, where they try to keep people who are alike separate from one another. So if you have views that are outside the norm, aberrations from the norm, then they're going to try to, separate you via all sorts of algorithms. So you have all the quote-unquote truthers in one algorithm, so you're only seeing what the truthers post. And then, you have another personalized bubble over here for the dumbed-down masses. Then you have another category over here for the people who fit nicely into the whole left-right paradigm and like to argue about meaningless political bullshit. Even the whole Ashley Madison thing, the whole have an affair, they're slowly, ever so incrementally moving us towards a society where, the family unit is totally destroyed. And I'm by no means one of these people who's like coming from the background that family is everything and that everybody has to have a nuclear family. But I do understand that family and community and tribes, essentially, small communities, are really the only defense, or the last bastion of the defense of individual human rights against the much larger, much more organized and centralized state. So yeah, you want to destroy the family. You want to make sex into something which is absolutely meaningless, and everything in the Brave New World is happening. You know, everything in that book is coming true. With the soma, they have this drug in the book which is basically to keep you happy. And what do you have? Well, you have a bunch of people running around on antidepressants, trying to get happiness through consumption because they have no connection with people. They're psychosocially dislocated.
All right, so I just want to quickly interject, and if you can see this guy over the corner of my shoulder here, yep, that guy, take a guess at what he's doing right now. I actually caught up with him after making this video, and he explained to me all about how Pokemon worked and how he was chasing Pokemons down the riverside. But I think that coincidence in itself, if you even want to call it that, I don't even think it's a coincidence. I just think it totally validates my point about the ubiquity of this Pokemon pandemic and the mass mind control at work. I mean, this individual was a university-aged individual who was out there chasing Pokemons, which is a game which was made for children, okay? Something to think about anyways. Let's get back to the video.
Trying to get happiness through consumption because they have no connection with people. They're psychosocially dislocated. They have no tribe. They have no community. So they're constantly trying to fill this endless void within them with stuff and to try to find some meaning in their life. And this is what happens. You know, so it's this constant devolution into total hedonism, which there's no more real connection anymore with people in our society. So now we live in this world where self-indulgence is seen as something to be aspired to. He who can indulge in himself more, he who is the most narcissistic, he who has the most Facebook friends, or has the biggest house or the fanciest car, is somehow more justified than the next guy who doesn't have any of that stuff. And even with prepping and survivalism, there is a certain elitist aspect to that, and there definitely is a hyper-consumerism to that too, and which is why I think I'm so envious of real bushcrafters. Like a friend of mine, the Sylvain Boer, who he makes all his own stuff. It's very intimate, it's very personal, it's meaningful, you know. And that's the thing, you can't have something that's meaningful if it was just produced in some sweatshop somewhere. It can't have that connection. You've basically, not only are you supporting a system which is probably going to destroy us as a species, like the whole globalist, you know, cheap products from China, outsourcing of jobs, and of course you're exploiting that person's labor at the same time. Not only are you doing that, it just also, it makes your connection with that item so meaningless when you just can go and buy it for this obscenely low price that it really has no value. And that's the problem in our society right now, is that we have, I wouldn't say we have no values. I just think that we have this value now, which is primarily happiness. That's the main value which stands out above all other things. And that's the whole idea with the Brave New World, is that happiness is more important than anything else. And unfortunately, happiness is only half of the emotional spectrum. There's a whole other reality that you don't see. It's like if you take the infrared spectrum, or sorry, the electromagnetic spectrum and you only focus on one color, that doesn't mean all those other colors don't exist. That doesn't mean the rest of reality is not there. I mean, we only see a sliver of it. So a person who's hyper fixed on positivity, stay positive, don't think critically, never be sad, never be upset, never get angry at anybody, or else you rock the boat. You're not going to see reality, so you're not thinking realistically. So I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching.